Hey, folks, good evening. It is officially finally 8 p.m. and going to get your feed for the night fired up here. As always, as you're coming into the room, just want to make sure that we have loud and clear that the audio is coming through correctly. So as you stop in, please do me a favor, drop into the comment section. Looks like we got one person in here already. Drop in a comment. Let me know that you're in, that you can hear me loud and clear. And hopefully, we are going to have a ton of people join us tonight for this feed, as I feel that while this may be one of the hardest things to kind of talk about, it's something that I think collectively we kind of need to talk through it. It's a difficult conversation. So I appreciate everybody that's saying hello coming in here. Scott, nice to see you. Michelle, looks like Carrie jumped in. Amy, as you're popping in, just let me know you're here. I will do my best through the whole segment to essentially monitor the comment section. But tonight's feed is going to be a little different than normal. A lot of times when we do podcasts, I will essentially do one, whether we have a guest on board, we're talking about maybe some coaching opportunities for individuals out there, giving them some pointers. Some of the times we jump on here and we're doing ball reviews and kind of talking through some new releases that are coming out into the marketplace. But tonight, this one is basically geared towards everyone. And what I mean by everyone is that it doesn't mean it's just fans of Pureit Bowling or anything along those lines. It is something that we need to talk about collectively. And I think the information that I'm going to pass on to everybody may start to open eyes a little bit and maybe give you a different vision to look at the current state of bowling. So when I put up the podcast for this week, one of the main reasons that I wanted to talk about how we go about growing bowling was just kind of a culmination of a lot of weeks where I have unfortunately been sidelined and not able to bowl myself again. So I do a lot more of listening, coaching, watching, and I just kind of take it all in. And I take in every aspect of the environment um, to kind of understand what bowlers go through, what bowlers discuss, what they're saying, what they're seeing, just as a whole. And one of the things that is pretty glaring to me is that I'm not 100% sure that one, individuals understand the current state of bowling, and two, the different levels of impact it has for growing a sport that all of us love. Okay. So the individuals that are going to come onto this feed, you're here for a reason, right? You're here for a reason because you love the bowl. Maybe your kids love the bowl. You want to support it. You want to do everything about it. And I want to make sure that I kind of pass on some information that, again, is going to get us our creative juices going a little bit. And I think first and foremost, one of the things we have to say right off the bat is in order to grow any sport, we need to go into that with having individuals that are going to display positivity. And unfortunately, within our sport, there is a whole lot of negativity that takes place. And it really does hurt the sport as a whole and any type of growth it may have in terms of seeing it more on television and having more opportunities within organized sports and more money being thrown at future programs where it comes to collegiate bowling, supporting the tours and things that go along those lines. Um, it's a very hard sell when it comes to that. So one of the first things that I think I want to discuss with everyone is that we hear so often how bowling was years ago, how bowling's current state and bowling is dying. And then you'll see somebody put up on social media, who's going to tell me bowling is dying? And they'll show an image of a packed center of youth bowlers or a packed center of adult bowlers, which is amazing. Okay. But at the end of the day, we need to also be realistic and look at kind of the data that supports it of where we currently stand. Okay. So just a little backstory here. So I am 44 years old. I think I've shared that on a couple feeds. Okay. So I've been in the game since I'm essentially 2 or 3 years old. I grew up with the game. My parents would do whatever they could to take me to organize bowling and let me bowl leagues and back in the JJBTs and things along those lines. And we're talking, me being born in 78. I go back as far as 1980-ish, okay? And in 1980 timeframe, bowling as a whole, when it looked at its membership, was pretty much at an all-time high. So whether you remember the old days of ABC, um, the American Bowling Congress, or you're remembering what is now referred to as USBC, in 1980 we had 9 million certified bowlers between adults, youth, just across the board. The problem is that for every 10 years, when you look at the actual numbers of certified league bowlers, every 10 years since 1980, we have seen a decline by half in terms of membership. So put that in perspective. We went from about 9 million in 1980 down to about 4.5 million in the 90s. 2000 saw a decline into the 4 million range. 2010 range, we were down to 2 million. And folks, we are officially under the 1 million mark when it comes to certified league bowlers. Okay, so when you look at a rapid decline just based solely in numbers, it will open your eyes in a hurry. And you can say, okay, coach, where are you going with this? All right. So there's a lot of things that change the landscape, not just of bowling, but in life as general. Okay. So I can tell you from 1980 to 1990 that it went from Saturday morning bowling for me being pretty much the only sport that was kind of done on weekends. You slowly started to see some like midget football, pony football, whatever you call it in your area, maybe a little bit of like travel league soccer and things along those lines. But you didn't have really other organized sports competing on the weekend. So bowling, especially at a youth level, was huge. Okay. So bowling was the thing you did on weekends because there wasn't other things going on. Like maybe you bowled in the mornings and you went to a roller rink or something in the evenings with your friends. As we started to creep in and get more organized sports, the amount of kids that were participating in bowling started to span out in different directions. Okay. So all the kids that were coming up in bowling as it was on its rise were now being pulled into other directions. Okay. When you look at today, okay, and you jump ahead 30, 40 years, we have just about any sport that you can dream of is participated every evening during the week. Saturdays, Sundays, you have club organizations, you have anything you can dream of in terms of sports. So there is options for all of these different avenues that the kids have to go. So you lost some of that luster of these individuals coming up. And on top of it, the landscape of bowling changed in a hurry, right? So when you decline by half every 10 years, you have to understand that means your leagues are shrinking. Okay. So one of the biggest things that I hear all the time, and I like to speak honestly about it because I think this is how we get through and we start working together, is there's way too many times that I hear bowlers say that a place sucks or this place is a dump or Bolero is crazy because they're charging this amount of money. Oh my God, I can't believe this bowling center closed. Gang, here's the true life story right now. Okay. Bowling centers as a whole, especially mom and pop owned centers, are starting to close rapidly because they haven't kept up with the times to charge higher rates and do the things that you're actually seeing in Bolero centers. Okay. And I don't want to solely say Bolero. I will say boutique centers and things that have changed their business model that are geared more towards other avenues where it's more of an FEC type feel. Okay, so instead of saying Bolero, they're not the only ones in the game. All right. These centers that have done this and changed their business models as a whole have been forced to do that because we are lacking league participation as a whole throughout the entire country. And as the amount of certified bowlers declines, we don't have the need for leagues. Okay. The other avenue is that the leagues that are still surviving, all we have in those leagues is negativity, or you have individuals that say, I'm not bowling league because XYZ bowls in it, or there's too many honor scores, or the game has become too easy. And I could go on with a list of 500 other things that they're going to give you excuse of why they don't bowl leagues. Okay. But the same individuals will turn around and complain that centers are not accommodating to league play. Well, here's the problem, gang. The problem is that they can't. All right. They don't have the league play or the revenue coming in to support upgrades to facilities, to keep the places fresh, and to allow them to enjoy a successful business. So what are they faced with? These proprietors that are trying everything they can't put money back into the centers because they don't have the league base there. And then when they go to try to do an FEC side of it, they are actually being called all kinds of names because they're changing their business model to try and stay afloat. The opposite end of it is that they end up closing. Okay. So when they close, what do bowlers do? Okay. And you're going to get the theme of this. I'm saying this in general. Okay. I'm not saying this is completely one sided. I'm not saying there aren't poor proprietors somewhere or things that aren't done right. But the problem is that bowlers are pretty much the biggest issue when it comes to working against the proprietors or who trying to do the right things. We go into league meetings and we complain because a proprietor wants to go from $2.50 for a line to $3. He wants to go up 50 cents a line, and the league votes it down and threatens to go to another bowling center. Okay. We are not valuing the amount of money it costs to actually maintain a bowling center, to enhance a bowling center, to pay talented mechanics and things along those lines, or talented cooks because you're saying the food is terrible. Does everybody kind of see where I'm going with this? We have got to understand that we are part of the issue as to why centers are quickly changing and the amount of lane beds are going away throughout the United States. This is happening because of the decline in league bowling. When league bowling was peaking, and you look back into the 80s, okay, and you look at when there was 9 million different league bowlers, we had double shifts going. We had people bowling almost every night of the week. Lane beds were actually way overpopulated because back then it was relatively cheap to kind of get into the bowling business, get some lanes started. You had a lot of athletes that would open up centers, and it was the thing to do. Well, as that started to decline and the money went down, if you didn't stick with the times, the places went out of business. So now what we're seeing across the United States is, and it's rampant, when you look at the amount of centers that are closing each and every day, each and every week, month, year, however you want to look at the landscape, or they're bought, enhanced, and the model is changed to sway away from what the league bowler base is because they're doing so because that is what is bringing the revenue in. Okay. Now, everybody that's probably in this feed right now is either a league or a tournament player. Okay. Now, if I put on the comments section here, in these, just the individuals that are in here, how many people in this feed can say that they go and practice more than once or twice a week to support their proprietor? How many people are bowling multiple leagues? How many people are bowling tournaments on the weekends? How many people are involved to try and bring in new bowlers? You're going to see very quickly where I'm going to go with this. All right. As individuals, especially when we get to be seasoned players, if we will, we all lose sight at times of what it's going to take to rebuild and get more involvement in the sport. Okay. Involvement in the sport is that we have to challenge one another to understand that we need to bring in new bowlers in order to maintain and enhance and increase our league bases, our membership, filling up these centers, getting people excited about being into a league. However, what happens is that again, we're our own worst enemies, and there's multiple ways that this happens, right? I see this all the time. So I've been bowling in leagues, obviously, since junior leagues. And one of the things that we see all too often is that you go into leagues and it is turned from being a social kind of environment where you go out and you're hanging out with maybe your best friends and maybe you have a drink or something and you're trying to have fun with it into league bases where everyone that's in the league feels like they should have the biggest opportunity to win. Okay. And we're making a lot of mistakes when it comes to league because we need to go back to the point of understanding as adults, as kids, if we go back into when we were youths, right? We always bowled with our friends. Okay. Me personally, I want to bowl with my closest friends as well. But too often I can't because too many of us are deemed to have too high of averages, or there's certain types of caps on leagues and things along those lines. And this is where we get it wrong when it comes to from the proprietor side for allowing that, from the league basis from allowing that. There needs to be a difference, okay? If you have a situation where you want to have leagues, anybody that is a registered USBC member should be able to bowl with whoever they want. Okay. And I know that's hard for everybody to grasp, but in most leagues, the money that's being paid out, you're going to lose money even if you're the first place team. It's just not for a lot of money. And you know what? If there's a league that has a ton of money, then maybe that's a league where the most advanced players all come together. They bowl that, but it's very hard to differentiate. Whereas maybe the most advanced bowlers shouldn't be bowling in certain type of handicap leagues that are offered in the centers. And we need to distinguish the differences between the two. Okay. We need to go back to remembering our youth, remembering how we came up and understanding that we essentially want to have fun when we're doing it. But the problem is it has become so cutthroat and so much over the top where individuals are pinned against each other, are getting to the point where they're not supposed to like each other. And let me give you some examples. Okay. Look, right now, I've been very fortunate. I work for some very good companies. Okay. I work for Hammer. I work for Turbo, and I sponsored by Coolwake as well. And one of the things I think we need to do right now collectively as individuals, as people, is first and foremost to help grow bowling is we have to start supporting each other. We have to start pushing the barriers down to not be pinned against each other because of what bowling ball brand we throw, what bowling center we bowl at, what pro shop drills our bowling balls. Because, gang, guess what? It doesn't matter. Okay. That is the part that we have to break down and is being basically thrown at us because we're supposed to think in certain ways, right? And I think that's the biggest misconception. I can tell you wholeheartedly, my companies are going to be fine with me talking openly here tonight because they know I'm trying to do it for the betterment of the game in general. And if you throw, and I'm going to use an example, if you throw storm balls or motive or swag or anything like that, and I'm on Hammer staff, I promise you this, I am not treating you any differently because of what bowling ball you choose to throw. The other thing, which can be a misconception and what is bred into people sometime is if you look up into the corner, and I do have my shop logo because you're on my shop page, I promise you this, gang, I drill into the individuals that represent my brand that we are not against others. We don't do things that way. Okay. We need to collectively, as a whole, drop the barriers, drop the stereotypes, drop the white noise that's in the background, where we're felt like we have to be on one side or the other. Okay. It's no different than being Democrat or Republican. Okay. And I don't talk politics a lot, but it's the same premise where we get into the situation where we feel like we have to be on one side or the other. And if you're on this side, you obviously, me and you we can't be friends. We can be indifferent in every single thing we do. That is the stuff that we have to break down to start working together, because we have to start by being good to one another. We have to start by being positive and lifting every single person up. As I'm sitting back on the sidelines and I'm watching bowling, I'm just as guilty as anybody else that I can fall into the pitfalls sometimes of negativity and frustration and things along those lines. But that's where I have to put myself in check to understand why I'm involved in this game to the level that I am. And it's because I love it. I love every aspect of it. I love coaching. I love it being the truest form of what I can offer somebody. I love seeing the aha moments from any single player that I may have impacted. I love seeing the fact that I have a message to portray to other people, how they take it in and how they give it back out, or how they explain it in their own words, something that they learned through me. That feels amazing. Okay. And I'm going to tell you right here and right now, when I interact with people and I'm out, let's say on tour, okay, and I'm working with my girls from our brands, I have some of my closest friends in the world that bowl for other manufacturers, and it doesn't matter. We don't pin it against each other like that. But for whatever reason, when you get to a local level, like we're all talking here, for some reason, that stuff starts to really happen. Okay. You're not allowed to like somebody because they go to Pro Shop X, Y, and Z. You're not allowed to like somebody because they throw a specific bowling ball that you don't throw, and you think our stuff's better. Look, that stuff doesn't matter. That's not ever going to help us grow bowling. When I go onto social media right now, I cringe almost every single time I read something, because it is something posted by a bowler that is negative about the sport. It's negative about something they didn't agree with when it came to something somebody did. It is negative because, Fox didn't, they blacked out a program and showed the Hershey Bears this last weekend instead of the Masters. Look, at the end of the day, gang, we need to understand we have to be marketable. So if we want to grow the brand, it has to start from the collectiveness of us coming together and learning how to coexist and help each other, no matter if we're from brand X, Y, and Z, shop X, Y, and Z. We use this distributor, we use that distributor, we go to this bowling center. It doesn't matter whether we use two hands, one hand, kick the ball down the lane. We have got to be better people. All right. I'm going to use some examples of this weekend as what the things we got to stop doing. I literally was sitting at a tournament on Saturday, and they announced an individual's name that had made the cut. And I literally listened to who's a person in that building that didn't realize the person was standing close and said, how the heck did that person make the cut? That's brutal. That is absolutely brutal. Okay. That stuff can't happen. Tearing people down and making them actually feel bad about what they accomplish isn't helping anything. Your top echelon bowlers, as your top echelon, we are the ones that have to help to save the game if we want it to be saved. Okay. So I have to challenge you in return, each and every person that's in here. How do we go out and get people involved to bowl? And I'll give you some ideas. And I think I've seen some people do some pretty cool things. Look, when I go in and I bowl a league, I need to be finding individuals that maybe are not current bowlers now and find a way to get them interested into the game. And the trick is that we have to be okay with trying to help individuals with our skill set to help them love it, to help them understand how to be better. I would rather take an individual who averages 150 to bowl with me in a doubles league to try and help them and get them involved and get to be the next person that goes in. Now, uniquely, I get to work with people all the time in the shop side of it. So your new bowlers, I get to interact with them all the time. And my favorite thing is hearing that somebody new is going to be joining a league for this year. That is what we need to do. Okay. Now, there is a huge youth movement right now. And I will tell you that, when you go to things like Junior Gold, you go to SYCs and things like that, you can see there is a great future coming up with the involvement of kids. However, when you look at it as a whole, these are one or two tournaments where we see all of them kind of come together. All right. But think about it. They're spread out through the whole United States, right? So depending on what area you're in or you're from, you may have a situation where you can see very filled up junior leagues. And then there's other areas where they're struggling to get, 10 kids involved at this point into a program. Those 10 kids might actually go to Junior Gold, and it gives a false sense of where we're at. So again, how do we do it? How do we as individuals, how many people in here in the room, and I am starting to watch comments and I'm going to hit some of these, okay? How many people in here in this, let's say, past 3 months have gotten somebody involved in a league that never bowled before? How many people can say that? How many people can even say that they talked to somebody about getting involved in bowling? See what we come up with here. A lot of people were commenting. I'm going back over bowling 2 leagues, bowling some tournaments. Yeah. And Alan, you made a good point. Alan put in here too, it's a lot harder to get people involved in leagues than it is to get people involved in going to Glow Bowling. Okay. So they're just kind of changing up what they, the business model for them to stay afloat. Curtis, I'm not really sure what you meant. Doesn't happen in your area. I don't know if you're talking about league or people. Would be awesome. That would be great. And I'm not picking on any one particular area either. We see it all the time. Alan says a few more this year. Wish more colleges had opportunity. After PJBT, there wasn't very much. No junior program. Don, and I'll pop some of these up here like this. I mean, Don's even telling my home bowling center doesn't even have a junior program anymore. It's sad. And I just saw, this week alone, 3 more closures and announced closures of bowling centers that were successful for 50, 60 years. And they essentially don't have anybody to step in and take them over. And unfortunately, unless an FEC center comes in and gets them, they're probably faced that the land value is more than what it is to operate it as a bowling center. Cass says she's got Alan, you had a few new. Jason jumped in. Emily getting softball players. That's an awesome one. No leagues yet. And Don, I know Don, you're a newer customer. You're just getting into bowling, and I know you've been down to see us. And no leagues yet, but I'm sure you guys collectively want to start probably bowling together in a league at some point. And we want to actually get that more people involved. And I mean, again, that it's just a startling number. And I have some comments that fly in the backside, ask me like, what do I think the decline of bowling ball? Because you'll get a correlation and people will blame everything on ball technology and stuff that kind of made it go down. And you know what? While the 80s was booming when it started to be kind of, I would say, the start of when scoring pace started to go higher. Sure, maybe some of those individuals lost some interest as they started to see, scores go up. But I don't have the newest demographic, the newest data when it was in 2020. But I can tell you in 2010 timeframe, there was, again, 2 million bowlers and there was 56,000 honor scores. I mean, that is just on average, right? Like in those 10-year periods, that is a whole lot of scoring. Okay. Maybe that's why some people lost interest. But again, a lot of individuals, don't, and advanced players don't practice as much as they should. They don't support the proprietor to keep money flowing into the centers. So the proprietors then turn to what other things? So how many people in here have seen their center start to take, maybe it was a big center, and they started taking lanes out, okay, and they started putting in other revenue streams, okay? So a lot of centers are trying to stay with the times where they know they can't fill up all the lane beds even with open play. So they essentially have turned and they've put in big arcades, or they've done a long time ago they were doing miniature golf indoor, and then some of them now are putting in a bunch of cornhole because that's hot, and axe throwing and escape rooms and anything that you can think of, that because the revenue streams have to keep fresh. And that's why it has that FEC feel, because we don't have the league attendance to support it. So what I'm saying to everybody here is that if we unfortunately don't want to see the continued decline of league bowling, we have got to grow together, come together, work together to get people more interested in bowling league again. And it is a tough one, right? But how do you do it? Okay, Jeff, you didn't answer that question yet. How do we do it? Okay. Well, first and foremost, I think what we really need to do is, as bowlers, okay, let's say we have a league right now. Like, I really feel like we bowl a pretty good league on Monday nights. I don't want to put it doesn't matter where the center is or anything. We have a good league base. Everybody gets along in the league. I think they have a good time, things along that. I would love to see that league go to, the entire center. So what can we do? Well, the one thing we can do is instead of going into league meetings, whether it's the end of the year, beginning of the year payouts or something, one of the things I think we can do is when we go to the end of the year banquets or the meetings, and it's time to talk about the following season. A lot of times that time is taken to negotiate lineage and things like that. And what I'm not getting at is go in there and say, hey, we want to pay more. Okay. We want to pay what they feel is fair. But what we can do is we can go in there open-minded as bowlers and start to talk to the proprietors and start to talk to the rest of the league as a voice and say, hey, we really want to increase the league to X amount of teams. Okay. How do we do that together, guys? What do we think are some good ideas, or some things that we could do to pull in more bowlers to fill this place up, right? Any proprietor is going to jump up and down if they know they can fully fill a center with guaranteed league bowling attendance, and that they have their league bowlers behind them to enhance the experience and feel like they are being worked with and not worked against. Okay. Unfortunately, proprietors take a beating sometime when things go wrong. But at the end of the day, I think we need to be the positive mindset and the positive outlook on things, and turn the cards and start thinking in a way and talking openly with those proprietors and with the rest of our league on ways we can add even more teams. Okay. How do we get people that maybe, like, for instance, let's say they're bowling the Rum Bucket League now. Okay. Those are popular, right? Like, how do we get the Rum Bucket League that has 2 teams to feel like they would have a nice home to come in and bowl in the bigger league with everybody else and be opened up with open arms, right? That is a huge item that we need to address. So I'm going to encourage each and every single person in here to try to take that approach with your proprietors. And you don't have to wait till the end of the season. Pull your proprietor aside, right? And the reason I say the proprietor is because you can involve, anybody you want, league officers or whatever you want. But that proprietor is going to be pretty shocked when they have an individual come in that is basically explaining to them that they just want to help. Okay. They just want to help. And that's what we want to do. And I think that is a huge thing that we can do. And we as bowlers are the ones that have to do it. Okay. We have to come together no matter what. Okay. No matter who you are, no matter your skill level, No matter, again, as I said earlier, no matter if you bowl for a company or not another company and things like that, drop all that stuff, come together as bowlers and approach the proprietors to find out what we can do to help. All right. I think it would be incredible. I think it would be well received. And I think if we start to understand collectively as bowlers what we truly value, what we truly want, that we're going to open up some doors that are going to be huge. I will tell you, years ago, when leagues were full every night of the week and double shifted and things along those lines, there were sponsors that were essentially lining up to have the marquee name on the league or sponsor dollars that would go in because there was a return on income, right? Or a return on what their investment was for sponsoring the league. Let's say it was a car dealership or something like that, would throw money at the league because they know if their name's out there enough, somebody in those leagues is going to go in and they're actually going to purchase an automobile and it's going to pay for itself as a write-off, hands-free, right? So, but it's really hard to turn around and look for bigger sponsors and stuff like that for leagues and trying to grow them when we have 8 teams of 4 people, or, it doesn't even take up half of a house. They don't really see the value in it. Okay. They don't see the value. That is why it's so incredibly hard when you get up to the highest level. And we're talking about professional bowling, why it's so hard to get sponsorship dollars, right? Getting off just the league thing and talking about that for a second, because we're talking about growing bowling, is we as bowlers have to have that positive mindset, the positive talking, the support, how much we love the game, for them to see that it is a marketable product. Okay. All they see right now, especially when it comes to TV deals and bigger sponsors and things like that, is look, they do market research. Okay. It's just like anything else. When they're looking to sponsor something and throw money at something, they're doing market research for dedicated people that are going out to see, okay, what is the outreach if we get involved in this? And guess what? If they go and they look at any of our social media presence across the nation, I would say 70% of it is something negative that is said about people. And it's not just bowling. It's, you get the internet bullies and the trolls and the stuff like that do that put a bad face on things. But guess what? We can absolutely do a better job as human beings to support that. And it starts at a local level. From a local level, it goes into more of a regional aspect, and then it goes as high up as we can go. We have got to rebuild the foundation as league players, because we talk about this so often where we want leagues to have priority and not feel like leagues are a thing of the past time, or they're more worried about their glow bowling or their laser tag and things like that are going on in the buildings. We have to give them a reason of why. Okay. And we can't do that by continuing to see the decline that's currently going on. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of people going, wow, this is like, a great idea and things like that. And it's not, if you think about it, what I'm kind of talking through here isn't a hard thing for us to do. And I see some people that are in the Monday Night League I bowl, and it's a good league. And I think we can do this. And, I think next year, our goal at the end of this year should be that when fall comes, that we prove that we can fill a house, right? We prove that we can do this. And the only way we're going to do that is together, because there's not one person in here like me, myself, Jeff. I can't change all this myself. For anybody that's on here, you can't solely do it yourself either. The voice of many and the power in numbers is always going to be a lot more than a single voice trying to talk through things. Are we going to hit roadblocks? Sure. It's life, right? Nothing is ever easy. There's roadblocks. Are you going to get buy-in from every single person? You're absolutely not. You're not. But you know what? It's no different than sitting when I teach and when I talk, that my whole aspect and everything I'm doing each and every day is, if I impact one single person, I did my job. I did my job, because every single ounce that you put into anything, if you impact a single person, you win. We all win. All right. So for my individuals and the people that I bowl with and things like that, by all means do it. Look, the other one you got to think of too is, and it's hard because people have, I talked in the beginning about organized sports. Now, there's a lot of adults that are in this room and some kids that stop by and things like that. It's hard for people to commit to a league now sometimes because their kids are in a million different organized sports, and that's organized sports or band or chorus or getting into they're doing shows and or church functions or anything. Like, this stuff is just, there's so many activities going on that it's hard to make commitments. Okay. When you see opportunities, it's no different than supporting local tournaments when you can, no matter how big or small they are. When you can do them, great. If you can help promote them, awesome. Because guess what? The one person sharing it isn't going to have the impact that all of us could have. We control how big or small something is by the amount of time and the impact that we have onto others. Okay. The whole entire reason why I have ambassadors for my brand for Pureit Bowling is that I can't solely send the message of what we try to bring to the table to each and every person that's out there. So I have other individuals who share common values that I feel that are ambassadors that can help share the word, because now I have multiple voices going out there. It is no different than what we're trying to do when we grow Bowling Gang. Try to get people involved. Do what you can to collectively get your peers together. Try to explain it in a way that we're talking through today to get this through to individuals. And I've seen some other comments, and I'm going to put this right here, and I'm going to put this up because you put it up here, Chris. And it says, would love to see more scratch leagues in our area, but it seems too hard to do. Go back to exactly what I actually said here a minute, is that you can get more scratch leagues, okay? But you have got to collectively understand together with everyone that roadblocks are put in place that don't allow real scratch leagues to happen. And guess what? Scratch leagues are not the answer to saving bowling. I'm a scratch player too, Chris. They are not the answer to bowling. When we need to have new individuals involved in the sport, those individuals are not going to come in as scratch players. Okay. What we really need to grow the sport is to have better league bases, variety of options for those individuals, which is what proprietors are trying to do. And then when you get to that point, maybe you can get some dedicated scratch leagues going at some point, but I'm going to guarantee you one thing here. That is not what's going to help the proprietor the most, because they're not going to get enough individuals that are going to commit to it. And you know what? It could be a million different reasons. Like I said, it could just be your availability of time. And that's a tough one. Alan, I'm going to try to read this real quick here. You have a pretty long comment. It's hard to put on the screen there. I notice it holds back when I try to invite some friends in the league. When they find out the average age of those in the league, which we feel out of place knowing it's true. So Alan was basically saying sometimes it's a little, I would say the good word is intimidating, because you see the average age of the individuals in league and they feel like they're a little, out of their element or something. And we as bowlers need to be more inviting when we have newer players coming in. I think I actually like to see more disparity. Like, it seems odd. Like, I love, to bowl scratch stuff and stuff like that too. That'd be great. But I have no issues. Like, somebody can average 120, 130 bowling with me. And if they're enjoying it and having fun with it, and I have an opportunity where I can actually help that person, I think I might enjoy that more at this point in my life. Because, and again, not to come off the wrong way, but if somebody's a 220, 230 average bowler, there's a lot of times maybe they'll bounce some questions off me here and there, but it's not something where I'm going to be truly working with them all the time. We want to actually build up the individuals to not feel out of place when they bowl in a league, right? So the trick is that we have to have the combination of individuals bowling together and make the leagues make sense. Okay. If you want to have a league where you feel competitive, and I'll go back to scratch bowling here just for a second. We have to have a league. If you want a true scratch feel to it, then you have to have one that's offered that doesn't have any type of caps or restrictions or anything like that, where it's just scratch play. And I know somebody put in, I don't even know if it was in this feed, but it's like it was in BOPO. You got the BOPO in Maine. They don't have any handicap leagues. Okay, fine, that works for them. But if you're going to have a scratch league, you need to differentiate it, right? So have a fully scratch league, no caps, no nothing. But you have to have leagues that are going to entice people to not feel intimidated, that have to, learn and feel a little better about themselves. So, maybe we can get a league where, I used to think mixed leagues were really great for that, because when I grew up and the mixed leagues were in, it was a Saturday night thing in Cedar Lanes and Lebanon. That league was packed all the time because it was husbands and wives, and they were just, it was averages were all over the place, and it didn't matter who average what, you just had an environment, but you have to build that environment. And we as players we have to be the ones to offer that environment out to make people feel accepted, make those individuals feel like we want them there. Not that, oh my goodness, this guy's terrible, what is he doing here? Or they don't belong in this league. I mean, gosh, I've heard these comments so often. It's tough, right? But we have to be accepting to. We have to help those individuals grow. That's the key. Let me see here. What do we got here? Yep. Alan's saying, it feels, I think this is a good one here. It's fun seeing new bowlers learn to improve and average over time in a year to see how much they enjoy getting better, right? Alan, one of the things I think is the most silly thing in the world is, unfortunately, we do have a lot of things where, there's caps on who can bowl together. And we left Gildia, we left the league the other year because we bowled so well and everybody's average went through the roof that we went over the cap and we were told we had to split our team up. What fun is that? What fun is that? We essentially enjoyed bowling with each other so much. We sat back, we had drinks, we laughed, we tried to get along with every single person, but yet we were held back because we got kicked out of the league because we did too well. This sounds silly, doesn't it? When you say it out loud, does that sound silly? Because it certainly does to me. That you're actually held back because you tried to get better at something. I don't know if you've ever heard the word sandbagging, but that's what that stuff encourages. But here's a good one, and I know Mark does this, and I'm going to put it up here all the time. I bowled last year with 3 bowlers where the top average is 125 and had a blast. They replaced me this year because they changed night and they continue. And he's right, because these individuals, I think Mark did an awesome job. He had actually shared with me what he was doing. He got new bowlers involved in the league, didn't care what their average was. He got them, down and got some bowling balls and fitted and all the other stuff and got them interested in it. And they've stuck with it, right? So again, kudos to you, Mark, because again, you don't, it's hard to kind of go that route, but none of us are going to get rich bowling league. Maybe down the road, if we can all work together and enhance leagues and get money added and things along those lines, you can get into those days where you're making a little bit of coin when you're in league. But until then, work together, right? Oh, let's see here. What did you miss driving up to Cedar for high school and PJBT? Yes, absolutely. I miss that place a ton as well. I never did a PJBT because I'm too old. It was always regular JBTs, but I do miss the days of the junior tour. And when I look back and I'm trying to discuss growing bowling and things we can do and things along those lines, and maybe it seems like I'm being a little repetitive of the things I'm saying, but they're important. And you know what? Through this whole feed, there's been like anywhere from 30 to 40 people that stuck with it the whole time to just understand. I'm just trying to kind of drill it into our minds to get creative, right? If no matter what area you're in right now, okay, no matter what house you bowl in, no matter what league you bowl in, I guarantee you there's opportunity to grow it even more than it is. Maybe you're in a league where they have a full house and a waiting list, and that's a great center. Awesome. Okay. But I can tell you they're not all that way. They're tough. CJ, let's see. Now, CJ, you just moved down south here. So all three leagues I bowl in are handicap. Some take it a little more seriously, but overall, everyone gets along, jokes around with each other. Everyone has a blast. That's great, right? But I think, CJ, and we're not going to call out names, but I know you came from an area where that wasn't the case. Okay. It is, it depending on where you're at, it can get a little cutthroat. And, I think bowlers turn into chronic complainers, and that doesn't get anything done at all. With anything in life, gang, if you are unhappy with something, if you have, you'd like to see things that are done differently, I'm going to give you a piece of advice I think is going to go a long way for you. And this is probably from all my continuous improvement background, is if you are just going to chronically complain about something and never offer up a solution for anything, you are just white noise. Okay. You are going to become the person that is white noise that isn't going to be heard anymore, because everyone knows that you're just simply complaining. Okay. Don't complain. Don't be negative. Be part of the solution and offer up ideas. You know what? Sometimes people that are chronic complainers do have some really good ideas, but nobody's listening because of the way you're not presenting it. Complaining about it instead of being part of a solution or offering up some suggestions or things that we could do differently to enhance what we're doing goes a lot further. All right. So, why do you think I keep going back to the same thing? Get involved with your league, get involved with the proprietors, see what we come up with. I know a lot of people right now are watching this feed that I bowl with, and I'm pretty sure I can get them on board, and we can work together to essentially work with the rest of the league and see what we can do to continue to make it grow and grow and grow and grow again. I think it's huge. Let's see. I don't know if this will put it all up here. Oh, yeah, it does. Something that's frustrating some of my home house league members is how different their average is at different centers. For example, my average is 10 pins different in one than the other. Probably a good problem to have when you're able to figure out why and get better at the experience. Well, if we talk through that a little bit, Alan, right? A lot of times bowling centers play so differently is there's a lot of things that go into it, okay? It could be their lane maintenance program. It could be the age of their lane panels. It could be the lack of knowledge that comes up to setting lanes up correctly. It could be that they were told they should be using a certain type of conditioner and cleaner that maybe isn't right for the center. It could be a million different items that are going on. But at the end of the day, a lot of it comes back to the centers play so differently because of the topography differences and the fact of the age of the panels, the age of the machines, the lack of upkeep that goes into some of the things. It is very, very expensive to own a bowling center. It is extremely expensive to hire a properly trained mechanic to fulfill all the duties you need to have a center that offers a fair and competitive shot, all while having newer equipment. Okay. So if you are dealing with some of those things, if the revenue coming in isn't enough to put back into the business, that is where you're going to see the center struggle more and more, because the shot will degrade as the age of the stuff gets older. Okay. And the problem is that's where you see this decline, because they don't have the guaranteed leagues that are coming in. Okay. And they might not have enough money to change it depending on the center to more of an FEC feel. And that bowling center is going to continue to decline and decline and decline until it either shutters or somebody buys it for the land it sits on, or it's bailed out by an FEC type company that can put the money into it if they feel the area is worth bringing in the amount of money they're going to throw at it to enhance it and bring the revenue back. Okay. It is. See what Scott said. I'm sure I will get flack for this. I would like to fill the cap. Rather see an average limit to enter handicap league. Say you average over 180, you can't bowl in the league. New bowlers in the 80s, averaging 160 bowling against 190 to 210. Today's same bowlers is against people 240 in handicap league. New bowlers get intimidated. They can, and I don't have a problem with that, Scat. I don't have a problem with a cap on a handicap league. I have a problem with a cap on a scratch league. If you want to do a cap on a handicap league to keep it fair, fine, okay? But you also have to watch too, because you could have one significant other that is a guy that averages 240 that wants to bowl with his wife, and it just doesn't fit. And then as soon as they get too high up on average, they're not going to fit within that cap. If the cap is dynamic and the cap moves based on whoever the highest team was, that's fine. So I don't know that anybody would give you flack over that, but that would actually distinguish the difference between a true handicap league and a scratch league, and honestly start to differentiate the difference between league bowling and professional bowling, because they are vastly different. It's very hard to see on the product that we put out there now, but it is hard to know who the really great players are versus the ones that are great in certain environments. Yeah, so Alan just put that. I think I said the same thing, Alan. He just put, I'd be capped out. I wouldn't be able to bowl with my parents anymore in the same team in that league. Yeah, there's ways you can go around it and stuff. The ones that we don't like to see is the ones where you end up getting, negative handicap and all this other crazy stuff that happens. That just, you can't do that stuff. Look, at the end of the day, this is really about trying to get more league bowlers and more people that are actually USBC members, and increasing that and trying to make it popular, trying to get more people in, an area to work together to do it together to try and get these league bases back where they are. But at some point, in order to grow leagues, these leagues are going to have to be grown with handicap leagues first. Okay. I'm not saying we can't enhance a scratch league for some scratch players, but you're also going to need some scratch players to kind of help be liaisons and stuff like that. Maybe they can get, you can have one player, on that team of a certain average. That's fine, Scott. But you also want to have somebody they can look up to kind of help them, because the other thing we know is if they don't start to get better at it, they might quit. But there are definitely, I would love to see a league of people that just want to get together. And I use that as, I look at the senior leagues, right? The old timers and stuff that have been bowling forever. They all still bowl together. Maybe they go play golf afterwards, and they might have been great players at one point, but they all just get together as people. They have a good time. They try to do the best that they can, and they just enjoy the league. And that's what we have to do, right? We have to find the happy place and collectively do so with a positive mindset and a positive outreach to try and I'm going to use the hard word, to try to save this game. Because if the game continues to decline from the league base, you are definitely going to see more. The centers that do find a way to stay open are going to be nothing but FEC centers. It is going to completely ravage and change the landscape of 10-pin bowling as we know it, because we cannot continue every 10 years to lose half of our membership. We can't do it. If we continue at that rate, guys, we're going to be down to 500,000 in the next 7 years. Okay, we've got to find ways. Youth movement is one point. I absolutely agree. People put that all the time. It is huge, right? We got to get the youth bowlers. Yes, they are new bowlers when they come into adult. But guess what? Those bowlers are already counted, because USBC is all encompassed, right? Back in the days of when you did ABC, they kind of split the youth and they split the adults and things like that. You had YABA and all this other stuff. Right now, we need to save it. And Curtis, if it continues, string pins will take over to bowling alley, basically arcade games. You're right. I'm going to tell you right now, and it's a hard one to understand, but strings, as much as they've been shown to us so far, we've been fed some bad versions of them. There actually are some really, really good ones that I bowled on. Is it is coming. And it is probably one of the only thing that's going to save some centers, is because the cost association to keep the overhead down with a string machine is a lot less for a center. So if I was building a brand new center right now, I would be putting strings in, because the cost savings on them, they're about $13,000 a lane, as opposed to excess of 35 to 40,000, depending on the pin setter you're looking at for a free fall. And it is a tough one, but there are good versions of strings out there. The only reason they're not certified so far is because of how they respot pins. I explained this to people the other day. It has nothing to do with the way they fly around. And, it is actually, let's say you leave a 310 and the 310 kind of stretches apart a little bit, and a freestanding will put it down off spot because that's where it slid to. String machine doesn't do that. It puts it on spot every time. So it goes against the traditional rules. All right. I'm going to look at a few more here, and I'm getting almost, I actually am at the hour, which I usually try to cut them off at. One of the biggest problems I see to drilling new people is when high average bowlers complain when they lose to handicap. There you go. There it is. When a lower average scores well above average, that might be the highest game they ever bowled. We don't like that. It means a loss. We lost our point. Eric, perfect example. I love it because it's completely what I'm saying is we can own our actions. We own the negativity. We can control those things, which is huge. You know what? We need to be going over to that individual and congratulating them on throwing such a good game, especially if you're in a league where you accepted in the beginning of the season that it's handicap structure. You're going to lose some games. Now, can you get in a league with a silly handicap structure? You absolutely can. But at the end of the day, you still agreed to bowl in it, so you got to accept that. Now, you will never get me to accept the fact that somebody can bowl more than a 300 game. All right? Ever. Right? There's no such thing as 301. It's 300. Okay? That's it. Looking at time commitment. What about time commitment? Non-bowlers are often surprised when I tell a league is still going into spring. Yes. I think what you saw is maybe it's a good one, Alan. What you're saying there is maybe the thing you can do with the proprietor, when you go to meet and some ideas, because, there's time constraint with the organized sports, and everything we talked about is a lot of centers have gone to shorter duration leagues, whether it's anywhere from 13 weeks, 26, cutting it in half. They allow teams to come in and out. So if you want to do 13 weeks and your team knows that they're going to have, a bunch of vacations or something, and they can't do the next one, that's the things you can do from a creativity standpoint as bowlers to give ideas to the proprietor of maybe something they haven't thought of, or to your league bowlers, your peers, things like that have a lot of things going on. That's huge. Okay. That is huge. It's an awesome one. Some of the centers down my way can't maintain and keep machines and lanes working on the regular. It could be a lot of things, Matt, right? They don't have the money to fix them. Maybe they do have the money to fix them. Maybe it's not a priority to fix them. There's a million things that can go into that. But I can tell you a lot of the mom and pop shops trying to stay afloat, it is tough. I use my place, for example, right? If you've ever been to Pureit, we have 8 lanes. 6 of which run. The other 2 have had electrical problems since I got them, so I just don't really work on them much, and decided to take them out. But I still have 8230s in my center, and they are a pain in the butt to work on, and they're hard to get parts, and they're always breaking, right? While I would love to swap them out, it's really not a smart business decision for me to do it yet. I might down the road, but my business model is not revolved around the bowling side of it. It's revolved around the shop. So again, it really comes down to the business model, and can I get my return of income out on that, right? Let's see, Mike, concept of cap leagues is great. However, instead of building more teams that need to break up, people want to change the cap, quit or won't roll unless together. Fortunately, this is how they end up going, and it simply does not work as scripted on paper. Right. Why? Right? Look, we participate in the only sport in the world that allows amateur status individuals to accept money. It's the only sport. Can't do it anywhere else. And I've talked about this for leagues forever. So if we're all gonna accept money, we should all be kind of looking at the same playing field. So if it's a scratch league, by all means, get rid of your caps completely. Bowl with whoever you want to bowl with, your USBC members. And I'll argue this till I'm blue in the face, because the perfect example of this one, Mike, and I'm glad you brought it up, is, there is certain things that has gone the wrong direction that has hurt participation, not just in leagues, but has hurt it in tournaments. Okay. There is a lot of tournaments, even my local tournaments, that I can't bowl with my other half carry. And it's not because we're both great. Carry is great. Okay. Carry is traditionally every year going to be somewhere between 235 and 240 in average. She bowls on tour. She bowls on both tours, blah, blah. She's an amazing player, right? At all levels. I, on the other hand, I really don't bowl that much, but I choose to participate and support the PBA. I will bowl a tournament here or there, but right now in league, I have been habitually maybe 220. I don't really bowl that much. Carrie and I are told we can't bowl together because we both have professional cards. Wrong. That's the wrong thing. We're bowling for money. Okay. You have different groups. You're bowling a scratch division or a handicap division. If you want to say in a handicap division we can't bowl together, fine, because I don't want to enter that anyway. But it's very hard when you tell me, because I have a professional membership, I pay dues, that I can't bowl with my other half and have a great time bowling with her or participating. That really hurts. Okay. When I can turn to the side and two guys or gals that average 230 and 235 bowl together, and neither one of them have their cards, but they're great bowlers, they just choose not to do the professional membership, can bowl together, and their average is higher than ours when you combine it. Doesn't make sense, gang. Doesn't make sense. Those are the things that we have to get through to not just proprietors in that aspect, but to tournament directors. Tournament directors are doing everything they can to try and offer things out to get participation. Unfortunately, they do a lot of things where it is not the right route. And you can say, well, that's me in my opinion. But everything all of us talk about, things we like to see, are they start as opinions somewhere. We actually have to we have to come together and offer those up and try to talk to those individuals in a manner which doesn't feel like they're being attacked, but explain it maybe differently. But when we get them to make a change, guess what we have to do in return, gang, as players? We got to participate. A lot of times, again, people will complain. They finally give in. They change the rule, and then nobody bowls anyway. We are our own worst enemy sometimes, okay? We've got to support it. If we truly want to grow it, we got to lead. Guys, I'm pretty parched. I'm at about an hour and 10 minutes here. I mean, I love talking, and I think a lot of people are, slowly but surely will start bowing out here. And I really do hope that everybody takes to heart kind of, what I discussed here. And obviously there's a million different directions we can go as well to add on to this. But if anything, if it got your creative juices flowing, it got you a little bit more motivated to be involved. It got you thinking a little bit about what you can personally do, and the power of numbers as we all come together. Then we've accomplished what we wanted to accomplish with the first session of talking through these things. We can grow the sport together by coming together. We can grow the sport together by dropping all the barriers that are within a sport. We can be bowlers first and everything else comes later. Okay. If we want to do it, we got to work together. I'm here to support you for whatever you come up with. And if you have ideas that you want to bounce off of me, or how you might be able to approach it, or just what we could do to collectively work together, I am all for that. And I'm looking forward to your messages. I love it. So, gang, I love being back on here. I really am going to do my best to try to do some more podcasts. It's busy. I got a lot going on, but I do love being on here with you. In the interim, what we can do for now, start thinking about this, talk to your peers, talk to your teams first, go support your proprietors. Okay. Go out, bowl maybe some extra games. If you see a local tournament, go and support that tournament. Get signed up. I know a lot of people don't bowl a lot of summer leagues. I'm guilty of it. I'm on the road, so I can't do it. But even in the past, I didn't do as much, and I should have, right? I should have, because those are the months they need us the most. All right, gang. I thoroughly enjoyed it. If you ever need anything, reach out to me. Loved it. Everybody, go support bowling. I'll talk to you guys all later. Bye now.